Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of Pod Strickland. I'm your host, Shwin, and this is episode 245. We are recording on a sunny but cold Monday afternoon, we'll call it, early morning, late morning, whatever, around noon. That is when we're recording. As always, I am joined by Stacy. That is at Stacy Patton 89. Wow, I can't speak words today. At Stacy Patton 89 on Twitter. Stacy, how are you doing?
Doing pretty well.
Good to hear. Good to hear. I wish I was doing well, but I'm not because sports are stupid. But before we get started discussing stupid sports, I do have to announce that the Strickland has a Patreon. You can subscribe to it. There are a number of tiers. There's a $6 tier that gets you access to Pod Strickland that I do every Friday with Prez. You also get access to the Strickland Discord where the conversation never stops. Certainly hasn't stopped amid giving up 145 points to the Oklahoma City Thunder. You also get access to the Strickland mailbag hosted by Drew Steele, a.k.a. Doug, the Doug bag that comes out every other week with him and Dallas Amico. There are further tiers. There's a $9 tier that gets you access to Stricken Roll, my solo pod, where I rant and rave about the Knicks even more. You also get access to wonderful premium weekly articles by Jack Huntley and Matthew Miranda, two of the best in the business. There are further tiers. There's a $15 tier, $30 tier, $50 tier, and a $100 tier. Let's go with a variety of additional benefits like live watch parties, listening on pod recordings, merchandise discounts, and even potentially co-hosting a podcast alongside yours truly one day. Whether you choose to subscribe or not, none of this would be possible without you. So without further ado, let's get started. The Knicks split a weekend slate of games. They beat Detroit 121-112, and then they lost to Oklahoma City 145-135. I don't know. You can just start wherever you want to start. I have no new angles on this team. This team is super frustrating in all the ways that I thought they'd be frustrating when they decided to keep Thibs and bring back Randall. I could sit here and tell you all the same exact shit that I have been saying for what feels now like, I don't know, it's got to be the better part of pretty close to like 9 months, I think, probably around February last year.
There's been babies born in that time.
Yeah, there have literally been babies born in that time.
Conceived and born during that time. So
Yes, correct.
don't worry, Shwin, you are not the father.
I surely hope not. But I don't know. I'm just like out of a lot of. There's nothing new for me to say about this team. Like there just isn't because we are presented this team with this coach who coaches one way and he doesn't deviate and he doesn't experiment. He doesn't try things. I saw a stat yesterday. I'm assuming Jeffrey Rasmussen posted this off the Strickland account, but the trio of Quickly, Cam Reddish, and RJ Barrett has played 4 minutes together this season. If that doesn't tell you why I personally and many Knicks fans believe that Tom Thibodeau should be fired and they need to move on, I don't know what will, because that is ridiculous and it's obscene and it is exactly the type of counterproductive coaching to your long-term future that Thibs has mind fucked way too many Knicks fans into believing is good coaching.
Yeah, I mean, I think even some of the staunchest Thibs defender on Twitter are starting to get out. As a side note, Twitter kind of sucks. Basically every take. The one good team we're both rooting for is 10-0, and I still see a lot of shitty takes on them. Anyway, the point. So it's a lot of territory we've already covered. Obi Toppin is now shooting 40% from three on a team that doesn't have a lot of shooters. And he was 4 for 5 yesterday, 10 points in 14 minutes. He did have 3 turnovers, but the player in front of him had 2 turnovers of his own. Julius has been actually playing well on offense for most of the year. His efficiency's up since last year. His shot selection has been better. But that's really the end of any good things you can say about him. And if Thibs is, and the thing is this, Thibs' whole thing is to get guys to play hard on defense. and also coaching them up in terms of he understands player development. He can coach them up in terms of defense. Randall's defense was acceptable or solid. Let's give it solid during the pandemic. It was bad last year, and he is maybe the worst defender in the NBA this year. I legitimately thought Alexei Pokusevsky played better defense yesterday than Randall. Um, Shout out Poku. And then Barrett has regressed. Prez put it. Prez did a nice thread. Well, it's a very harsh thread. I could kind of hear the ether music in the background. But RJ's technique and footwork on closeouts is just awful right now. He is not the fleetest of foot. A lot of people are saying, "Well, play him at the 2. Why are you playing him at the 3?" Well, he was getting blown by Bogdanovich, who's 34 years old. Do you want him handling guys like Jaden Ivey? We know that he's capable of guarding those players, but that kind of regression. And I understand the complaints about RJ not playing yesterday, not finishing the game. There's no reason for Fournier to have been out there. But it's now even the things that you could count on Thibs for. Player development is coming into question. On the flip side, Cam Reddish has improved on both ends. It wasn't just the scoring. But those things, like, he's supposed to be a guy who gets everyone to play hard, plays tough defense. Maybe it's a little bit of the scheme being outdated because you can't just you can't give up the amount of open threes the Knicks do and overhelp to the extent they are. But in terms of the future of this team, that's the other conversation to have. Quickly had 24 points in 23 minutes. For some reason, it was necessary to give Evan Fournier 19 minutes instead of giving some of those to Quickly. I will say, to the argument that this is just a bad roster, I hear people. I think that my alignment is more with you, where it's more in terms of the direction. But I wouldn't say this is a talentless roster. I would probably look to firing Thibs first, but if Randall's process is going to be better on defense, maybe another coach would reduce his minutes and get him to play a little harder on defense. I would personally rather not stick around to find out, but I can see that. And for all the talk about, the Knicks should have traded for Donovan Mitchell, their one free agent acquisition, who also only played 24 minutes last night for some reason. Brunson has actually increased his efficiency and his scoring. He's increased his assists from 4.6 to 6.8 without an increase in turnovers at all per game. Basically the same minutes he was getting in Dallas. And he's also and this is all despite the fact that he hasn't been shooting the ball well. He's been taking more pull-ups and his three-point percentage has been down to 27%. So that's actually worked out. There is talent on this roster to at least be competitive and play hard every night. But guys like Randall and Fournier, and to an extent, even RJ Barrett have looked checked out. RJ Barrett on offense has been better. Randall has been better on offense, but a Thibs team that three-pointers happen, you understand that, but the defensive effort has been pathetic for a long time. It's not just Mitchell Robinson being out. They have a severe lack of foot speed on defense, and it's compounded on the perimeter on defense.
I don't think they have a severe lack of. I don't think they have a severe lack of foot speed. I think Thibs is actively choosing to prioritize playing lineups and players and rotations that have a lack of foot speed. I don't watch this team and think I don't think they have a lack of foot speed.
I think there are two perimeter defenders with plus foot speed on this team. I think
IQ is a good. I think IQ is a plus defender. I think Cam can be a plus.
Cam was good yesterday, and he has been better this year. So
Cam has just in general been better this year. I think Obi has fine foot speed. I'm not talking about his execution defensively. His actual foot speed, willingness to make rotations, all this stuff is just nonsense to me. Like, you can sit there and tell me that, like, yes, the Knicks don't have multiple great elite lockdown defenders. I wouldn't push back on that at all. They have more than enough available to them to be a competent plus defense. Not saying elite, not saying fantastic. They have enough, like, the stuff we're talking about.
When you have the poor foot speed, which I think the lineups they have, you're compounding it when you overhelp, right? So that's a big issue. So
I think the entire thing is being presented in the dumbest way by this coach. And that's like, I don't know. I can't say it in any more ways than I have said, but like, The Randall stuff is ridiculous. If you want to hold, I tweeted this out, but like, if you want to hold Jalen Brunson and RJ Barrett accountable for poor defense by benching them and you want to send that message, I am fine with that. I actually don't hate that at all. That's fine. That is maybe even a good thing. I respect it. I am cool with it. In a vacuum, that is fine. What is not fine is that these two guys are held to a standard that he has never applied to Julius Randle. Never, not once. It's a joke. Like, it is actually a joke to watch this stuff. And
Do you think, sorry, I know you probably watched this team more. Do you think his handling of stars and maybe not, or quote unquote stars, highest paid player on the team, whatever you want to call it, do you think that parallels maybe the way he handled Cat or Wiggins and kind of not getting the most out of them in Minnesota?
I don't know. I probably wouldn't have the best grasp on that. I would say that like the unwillingness to challenge certain players and personalities is in line with what happened in Minnesota.
And we saw that it pushed Jimmy Butler away, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
and it's also a thing that happened at the end of his time in Chicago, which everybody forgets about now. But by the end of his time in Chicago, Derrick Rose was not pleased with Tom Thibodeau. Jimmy Butler and Rose did not get along. They did not, and a lot of it was some of the stuff we see with RJ and Julius, where we're like, yeah, no, they don't play cohesively together, and that doesn't mean they hate each other. I don't think they hate each other. I don't think they have like a personal enmity, but like there's a difference between that and playing basketball well together and being on the same page with that shit. And like they're not way too often. And they've like I'm sorry, but like we're in year 4 of having RJ Barrett. And this entire time, the entire time we've had him, highest draft pick since Patrick Ewing. Okay. Whatever you think about him, whatever you think, he's overrated, he's underrated, he's a future superstar, he's just a role player, whatever you think about him, your obligation as a franchise when you draft somebody third overall is to prioritize them and to put pieces around them that complement and can get the best out of them. Julius Randle doesn't do that. And on top of that, the entire time, he has been a bigger organizational priority than RJ Barrett. It is enough. It's enough. I've seen enough of this fucking guy, okay? He's not, I don't care if he's meditating. I don't care if he's smiling. I don't care if he's the happiest just the happiest camper in the world. Who gives a shit? I don't care. I'm happy for him that he seems to be in a better place mentally. As a Knicks fan, I could care less. If he was absolutely miserable every waking second that he was on the floor, but he was playing at a high level,
he'd be Michael Jordan.
I'd be thrilled. Yeah, I'd be thrilled. Michael Jordan wasn't some super happy, really, jovial teammate on the court that was just hugging everybody, smiling, and
he was an asshole.
No, he was a raging asshole. Like, and that's fine. You want to know why it's fine? Because he was Michael fucking Jordan. Julius Randle can be the nicest, happiest person. At the end of the day, he's Julius fucking Randle. It is enough. We are blowing our own, like, we're literally blowing the opportunity to grow a young core together. And for what? For what? For a guy who had a fluke shooting season where there was nobody in the crowd and there was no pressure. There's not the daily pressure and grind that comes with like having the media in your face every single day, having fans in the crowd every single day, having media at shoot around every single day, having to deal that it was not the same thing that the rest of his NBA career and the rest of the history of the NBA has been. And as soon as things got back to normal, he's been a pumpkin. I don't care what he's shooting from 3. I don't care what he's shooting from the field. He plays absolutely dog shit defense. His technique has never been great. It's somehow worse now. It looks like he's lost a step. So even when he switches now, he's getting cooked pretty routinely. And then you just have possessions like yesterday. There was multiple possessions yesterday where he's just staring at Lu Dort. Lu Dort has, he has all the time in the world to line up the seams on the ball. You know when you have like forever when you catch the ball lining up a 3, and you've got forever. You can just get the seams lined up exactly how it feels nice on your hands.
Eat a sandwich.
Eat a sandwich, check the wind, make sure. He had all the time in the world to line it up. This happened multiple times. Julius just staring at him. He's just staring at him, 2 feet in the paint, not even close to closing out him, not even in the vicinity. And his decision as the head coach was, I have to play Julius at the end of the game, but RJ and Brunson's effort was so deplorable that they need to sit. That's just ridiculous. I'm sorry. It's ridiculous. The stuff just not playing small at all yesterday was a joke. Like I mean, what kind of defensive mastermind? Okay, I respect that Thibs has a base scheme, and I do think the base scheme, when guys are bought in, when guys are executing it, works well. We've seen it. Okay, we've seen that. But when he has games like this routinely now, where teams know we're playing, they know exactly what coverage they're getting on every screen and roll situation, right? Because we never deviate. And he got cooked on it yesterday. SGA knew every single time they're going to be playing drop. They're going to play drop. They're going to play drop. They're going to play drop. I'm not like, you have to do shit that is different.
And
And like,
they have one guard who can get over a screen and drop, right? I mean, drop can
yeah,
work on against pull-ups if you have, let's say, a guy with a 6'8" wingspan who can get skinny over screens, and they have one player like that. And guess what? When he played in the fourth, SGA scored 2 points, right? But he played 6 minutes in the first half. So it's just like even the adjustments that can be made, and you could say Mitchell Robinson is their best defender. I do think I've spoken about this on the pod. He held a lot of things together, um, and that are now looking a lot worse. But there were adjustments to be made, and he refuses to do that.
yeah, he just doesn't do it. And then when he like, I mean, I just yesterday's game was just, it's one of these things where it's like, I mean, I could go through this. Let's just do it because this is our podcast and we can just do it whatever the fuck we want. I'm gonna go through games. There have been like 8 games since the middle of last season that I have thought this is a fireable offense. This game in and of itself, I've been like, yeah, you should fire him for this game because it reveals significant process errors. So let's go through it. Let's start New Year's. So the first game of 2022, okay? Let's just look through it here. Okay, things are okay. Things are okay. Okay. Here we go. I mean, the first was obviously that stretch, right? February, you just had a bunch of fucking losses. The Lakers game at LA, maybe the first time I've like seriously was like, yeah, they just got to can him. That was one
The
where
one
he,
where RJ had the dunk on Anthony
yes,
Davis.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's one where he benched quickly after a poor first half. For the entire second half, he played Burks the last like 20 something minutes of the game into overtime. Horrible loss. Okay, fine, that happens. The Denver game, that's 2 games later. Leaves RJ Barrett in during the game is over. The Knicks are down by like 15 with under a minute left. The game is fucking over. He leaves him in. He hurts his ankle. Luckily, it wasn't more serious than it was. That to me, right there, fireable offense, especially for Tom Thibodeau. If anybody should know, pull players that matter significantly to your future, pull them from meaningless basketball games. It should be the man who was on the bench when Derrick Rose tore his ACL with, what was it, a minute left and they were up 12. Yeah, it should be him. Okay, fine. Happens. This stretch, right before All-Star break, should have been fired right then. Lose to Portland 103-112. That's a game the Knicks blew a 20-plus point lead
Dame
against.
didn't even play, did he? That was just
Dame
signing.
didn't play. That was a Portland skeleton squad. Absolutely ridiculous loss. Lose by 9. Okay. This is a team that's actively trying to tank at that point in the season, by the way. Okay. OKC. Next game at home. Knicks blow another double-digit lead. 123-127. They lose in overtime. Next game against Brooklyn. They are up 26 in this game. Absolutely crushing a Brooklyn team that did not. I think James Harden was traded by that point. Ben Simmons obviously wasn't playing. Kevin Durant didn't play. Kyrie Irving didn't play because he can't get vaccinated. Lose that game. They blow a 26-point lead, lose it 106-111. Similar issues at the end of that game as we saw yesterday, where he got burned because he kept playing drop on Cam Thomas, who, whatever his flaws are as a player, pretty good scorer, pretty good pick and roll operator also, especially as a mid-range scorer. You let him walk into like 15 jumpers that night. lose that game. Ridiculous. Okay, that's 5 games already. We'll combine those last 3 into one though. Okay, that's 3 games that, in my opinion, I think if you had fired him after any of those, it would have been reasonable. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, this one. Phoenix at Phoenix. Knicks lose 114-115. This fucking guy pulls Cam Reddish from a game that he's playing extremely well in, was giving the Knicks a dose of shot creation that they just did not have during that game. He pulls him inexplicably to go back to Evan Fournier. Knicks blow the lead at that point. He brings Cam Reddish back in. Games within the margin. Cam Johnson hits a ridiculous 3 to win it. I would have been fine firing him after that game. It was that absurd to me. And then the one that actually just really, I mean, the one that just absolutely drives me bonkers. There are 2 actually, right back to back. Charlotte at home and Cleveland at home. Charlotte at home. This is after they have a stretch of games without Julius. Julius comes back because he has to come back and he has to, we got to get him his touches. This is after the Chicago game where Julius, literally sulked off the court because Obi played some fourth quarter minutes for once against Charlotte. Okay. Mind you, we beat this exact Charlotte team without Julius Randle with Obi Toppin starting a week before. Here are the minutes in that game. Julius Randle, 35 minutes, 30 seconds. Alec Brooks, 40 minutes, 59 seconds. Evan Fournier, 35 minutes, 24 seconds. Emmanuel Quickly, 23 minutes, 19 seconds. Obi Toppin, 12 minutes, 29 seconds. Jericho Sims, 11 minutes, 28 seconds. Deuce McBride, 8 minutes, 58 seconds. Fired him after that game. Cleveland, next game. Okay? Next game. It's fine. You lose to Cleveland. They're a good team. And, Darius Garland goes off. It happens. Here are the minutes for that game. Okay? Obi Toppin starts actually this game. He plays 30 minutes, minus 18. Okay, whatever. Emmanuel Quickly, 29 minutes, 43 seconds. Evan Fournier, 27 minutes, 24 seconds. Alec Brooks, 27, 36 seconds. Why are you playing guys that suck more than Quickly over him? Why was this still happening at this point in the season? And this game isn't like an egregious coaching loss. I'd have just fired him out of principle because you're still sitting here playing Burks and Fournier. You're starting them over Quickly in a game that Quickly clearly outproduced them over a stretch of games where Quickly clearly outproduced them. It was clearly a bigger driving force of success. That's like 6 games. And then you got this year, the Atlanta game. I would have fired him right after that. The Brooklyn game, would have fired him right after that. OKC game, would have fired him right after that. That's 3 games already this season. We've played 13. This guy should not be on an NBA sideline. He should definitely not be on the Knicks sideline. And I promise you this, when he gets fired, and he's going to get fired at some point, when he gets fired, he's never coaching again in this league as a head coach. No shot. No way in hell. Why are you delaying this anymore? He should be gone. He should have been gone last year. Multiple reasons to fire him. They should have fired him when he was leaking constantly to the press about how, Obi's just a highlight guy. He's, you see the one good thing he does, but he does these 9 things he doesn't do. They should have fired him this summer when he kept leaking to Berman all this stuff that basically said that he didn't see much potential in any of the Knicks young players. You can think that. Totally reasonable to think that. Shouldn't be leaking that. You want to trade for a star player? Guess what you don't want to be doing then? Devaluing your own assets, devaluing your own players. He is unfit to coach this team. I think he's personally lost a lot. I think RJ's technique and all this shit defensively, you can talk about it until you're blue in the face because he's been I think it's generous. I'll be generous and I'll say that he's been up and down defensively this year. But guess what? If I'm him, I'd mail it in if I were him. I'd absolutely mail it in right now. After that game yesterday, I'd mail it in. Oh, you're gonna hold me accountable? It's fine to hold me accountable. But Julius Randle, no, we can't do that. That's my head coach, Mr. Accountability. Yeah, no, get the fuck out of here. I would completely check out if I were RJ until he's fired. I would. I got my money. I got my contract. I'm a bigger deal to this franchise than you are. You don't treat me fairly. You don't treat the team equally. You don't hold everybody to the same standard. I'm done with you. I'd check out if I were him. I would be halfway checked out at least if I were Quickly, and I'd be all the way checked out if I were Obi. He is lucky those guys have not completely checked out the way that a lot of other dudes would in the same situation they've been in. He should have been gone yesterday. He should be gone today. He should be gone whenever they want to make the change. He will have deserved it. He will have earned his firing, and I will not be weeping or tell a sob story for him. Does that mean that everything is perfect and that the Knicks are a championship contender if they hire another coach? No, but I don't know why that's the standard. We can judge process without believing the Knicks are going to be a championship team. His process sucks. His unwillingness to do anything really differently, generally speaking, sucks. He's tried some Obi and Randall together very minimally this year. I think that a lot of that is probably just influenced by Mitch not being there. But hey, we've given him credit for that. I'll continue to give him some credit for it. Yesterday was a perfect situation to try that, and he never went to it. He played Hartenstein for whatever the fucking minutes were. And last thing, why why this is a coach who absolutely should be fired. That Atlanta game, one of the most notable things about that game was he takes out Quickly and Obi and those bench guys. They're up 17, I think, when he takes them out. 6 minutes left a little under 6 minutes left in the second quarter. By the time he brings them back, Atlanta's in the lead. I think they were up like 7 or 8 or something by the time those guys come back midway through the fourth. Midway through the third, sorry. Yesterday, he pulls Quickly with 8:19 left in the second quarter. The Knicks were up 9 with a free throw coming to Brunson, so we can call it 10. Okay, they're up 10. He pulls Obi less than a minute later. Knicks were up 7 at that time. By the time Quickly comes back in, okay, Quickly doesn't come back in until about 4:40 left in the third quarter. The Knicks are down 11 at that point. Obi comes in a few minutes after that. The Knicks are down 15 at that point. This is not coaching. This is just like, oh, these are my preordained rotations, and I will stick to them except in the fourth quarter. And in the fourth quarter, I will actually maybe adjust and like try to find lineups that are working and are, helping us win the basketball game. And even then, it won't make fucking sense because I'll have Evan Fournier out there for the entire fourth quarter. He should have been fired for that Atlanta game. He should have been fired for this game for the exact same reasons. There's no willingness to adapt. There's no feel for the game. There's no, oh, this is turning right now. Let me go back to something else. Let me try something. There's never anything with him. He is devoid of any more ideas. He's devoid of any more creativity. He should go. And if he doesn't go, I would be he should be gone now. And if the front office doesn't get rid of him by like 25, 30 games into the season, I just clean house. Because I don't know. Like if they can't make that reasonable conclusion, then they're not fit for purpose either.
Yeah. I mean, that pretty much sums it up. So I guess the question is this, right? How much of this is a roster construction issue? Beyond just like let's say they do fire him, do you think Bryant would bench Fournier and Randall? Because I wonder, like how much did I mean? Let's go back to some of the moves that they've made that have been talked about the most, right? They gave Randall an extension. I believe at the time both of us were like,
Yes.
that's they kind of have to do it, right? Are you still? I mean, because there is the argument that for one season with no fan in the stands, it seemed like he found Michael Jordan shoes or something and played way better. Or just shot way better. That was really the main difference. I think his playmaking was generally a little bit overrated that season. He just had more gravity, and it's kind of been the same. Obviously, the defense wasn't this bad, but in hindsight, are you still going to hold them accountable for that? What are your thoughts on that? Let's start with that because I think that was the first big move that this front office made.
I mean, yeah, look, you have to because ultimately, like, we can sit there and we can say, yeah, in the moment, it made sense to give him the contract. Can't kill them for it. Fine. But you get like a front office needs to have foresight and they need to manage risk and they need to calculate it. They took the bet that Julius' season wasn't, even if it was a fluke, that the level he would play at would make that contract of value and potentially tradable. They have lost that bet miserably. And They refuse. And their attempt to extricate themselves from this involves playing him way too many minutes, burying the guy they picked eighth overall, and compounding all this by sticking with the coach who is ridiculously loyal to Julius for whatever fucking reason. Um, I don't know. I think it's pretty obvious that they took an L there. That's okay. You aren't going to hit. You're not going to be perfect as a front office. Nobody's expecting perfection. I mean, maybe there are definitely people that expect perfection, but you're not going to be perfect. What you need to do though is when shit hits the fan, you need to be able to make tough decisions, and that ultimately is like they're not making a tough decision with Julius. That doesn't mean that you got to dump him right now, but it does mean you got to be able to have you got to be able to know you need regardless of whatever you want to do with Julius, it needs to be made clear that the focus of the organization moving forward is not on him. And if he can't buy into that, then he can go fuck himself. Because they're not going anywhere with a team that is treating Julius Randle like a number one option. And don't get it twisted. That is exactly what's going on. If it's not the organization, it's certainly the fucking coach. That's a problem. That is ridiculous. No other team in the NBA would have this idiot, this fucking loser, be their franchise player. And that is exactly what he is. He is a fucking loser. And all his stands that want to defend him, well, his true shooting percentage is nice this year. Watch fucking basketball, dude. Watch it. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. If you think Julius Randle's playing at a high level this year, maybe find a new hobby. Maybe basketball is not for you.
His offense has been better. I'll say that.
Who
But the
cares?
defense has been awful.
His offense has been better, but his offense doesn't. Nothing he does amplifies the skill sets of others around him. He doesn't make the game easier for anybody. He doesn't play a style of basketball that's conducive to getting the most out of everybody. He plays a style that is conducive to Julius Randle getting 20 and 10. And people can, oh, look, he's getting 20 and 10. It's so good. Who cares? If you ask, like, do you think Julius Randle can be traded right now? Just if you were just like, hey, we are ready to give away Julius Randle, do you think there's a team out there in the NBA that's like, yeah, we'll give you some expiring contracts for that? Sure.
Yeah, I think
I don't
so.
think there is. I don't think there's a
You don't
single team
think
in the
Hollywood, or do you think they're just going full Wemby now? The
NBA. Sorry,
Lakers.
say it again.
The
The
Lakers. Do you
Lakers,
think?
they can't even get Wemby.
Oh, that's yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's the team that comes to mind. One, I don't know what's going on in Utah. I don't, but they're actually good. So maybe before the season, he wouldn't have been a bad reclamation project. I'd be interested to see a him and Lowry front court.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if Danny Ainge wants to salvage this tank, Julius Randle would definitely be like. I genuinely don't understand how you can watch this guy play basketball this year and act and truly believe that not only is he playing well, but that the organization and the franchise is best served keeping him in his role and catering to him and playing him, you know, 30 minutes, 35 minutes a night and giving him all this usage. Like, I just don't understand it at all. Like that, this team is not going anywhere. And if this team, like the reason to get a guy like Jalen Brunson, right, is it puts everybody else in better positions, right? It makes the game easier for other guys. Who has Jalen Brunson made the game easier for other than Randall? Like, I'm not saying that he's not doing a good job. I think Jalen Brunson's been really good. What I am saying though is that this entire thing, so much of the reasoning behind it was like, oh, well, he's going to make the game easier for Randall, and we're going to get like Randall's going to be so much better. And it's like, okay, he's made the game easier for Randall. Randall's more efficient. What has that gotten us? Are we getting
Well,
better defensive
I
effort?
think
Are we getting a Julius Randle who is making better decisions?
right.
He's not.
I
So
do think
all we
Brunson has
got
made
is
the
a
game
more.
easier for some other players as well.
Oh,
I like
he
his chemistry
has.
with Obi when he finally gets to play with him. But yeah, sorry, go ahead. I think I
No,
love the fit with Quickly if they actually got more minutes together. So
yeah, no, and I agree with that. But my point is more like we're not getting any of those benefits because our coach is so committed to playing these guys exclusively together. And it's crazy. Like I'm looking at this, I'm just looking at these numbers right now. Okay. Those three, Julius Randle, Jalen Brunson, RJ Barrett, have played 341 minutes together. That means that like they've basically played less than 100 minutes. We're not like they basically have just exclusively played with each other. We're not really exploring what options we have. Like maybe I'm totally wrong on Julius, and he does have some hidden value to this team. Maybe that's true. I don't know. But guess what? It is not in that lineup. You're not trying anything. You have to try things. That's coaching. Coaching is trying, is seeing what's not working, experimenting, tinkering until you find a better solution. If you're not doing that, you're not coaching. And this is a roster that requires a coach that is adaptable, that is flexible, that is willing to try things. And they have the absolute wrong coach for this roster and for where this franchise is currently. Thibs is past his expiration date. And this front office is getting close to theirs if they keep him. I'll say that much.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's probably some smoke to the Bagley even said that the seat is getting warm. I think that the fact that he said that we need a few more games like this, what we've been seeing. I mean, the Brooklyn performance was absolutely atrocious. I would say in some, we can OKC is clearly tanking, but they have been, an upstart team that plays hard. They've given the Knicks trouble in the past. That Brooklyn, Thibodeau has never beaten the Brooklyn Nets. That's pathetic. I'm sorry, like not one time. It has nothing to do with the rivalry
Steve
thing.
Nash is undefeated against Tom Thibodeau.
Yeah. And granted, they've had more talent, but not in every game. There's been games where none of the big three played, and we lost to like Cam Thomas. And that's not disrespectful to Cam Thomas, but other teams figure out how to do this. But I guess another question I'll throw out to you. There was a curious report that came out that other teams have called the Knicks about Emmanuel Quickly. Do you have an idea who you think might have leaked that? Is that the front office maybe leaking it to try to see what the interest might be? Or drum up that, because that would be a very discouraging sign. Not just whatever your thoughts on Quickly, it would show that they're trying to somehow make this work with Brunson, Randall, Thibs, and I just don't. But yeah, I'm curious your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I would guess that didn't come from the front office. If I had to guess, I would guess it came from probably either other teams or
Who are
Quickly's,
actually interested? Yeah,
yeah, or Quickly's camp, which that could be for a variety of reasons. Like, hey, if you don't want to give him more minutes, like there are teams that are interested in him, let him free, set him free. Like, I think that's possible, but I would suspect it's probably other teams. I don't. To me, it doesn't feel like the Knicks would get much of a benefit of leaking that out there because it wasn't even that, oh, the Knicks are gauging his trade value. It was that teams have called them, right? So what does that really do for you? I don't know. Maybe they would leak it to try and solicit better offers from competing teams, but like, who knows? I would be very discouraged by that. I think it would show that this front office actually has no fucking idea what they're doing, which maybe they don't. I mean, it's possible. To the best thing they've done so far is to not make a major move, which I have generally agreed with. But in so doing, they've also created this logjam, which exacerbates Tibbs's biggest issues while sticking with Tibbs and Julius Randle. Like they just haven't. They have to make a decisive move here, and personally, like it's like, oh, the Fournier contract is bad and like they should get criticized for it. Fine, criticize them for it. But if you're a front office, like what is the worst thing you can do is just to try to salvage this underwater distressed asset for what would amount to be a minimal gain. You're not going to get value for Evan Fournier. Like you're just not. No one's going to trade you a first round pick for him. Look at Bojan Bogdanovic. Okay, he got traded for what? Basically Kelly Olynyk and a second round pick or something like that. I don't know. Not even a second round pick. I think it was just Kelly Olynyk and Saban Lee. That was the deal. Bogdanovic is a flat out better player than Evan Fournier. He's always going to be better than Evan Fournier. He's always going to be valued more than Evan Fournier. Who cares? Like you have play. You don't need Evan Fournier in the rotation. You have other options. Derrick Rose looks completely washed. Fun fact, by the way. Here's a fun fact for you. What if I told you that Emmanuel Quickly had a higher true shooting percentage this season than Derrick Rose? Is that something you might be interested in?
that shocked me because this has been the worst season for Quickly efficiency
Oh,
wise.
guess what? It is a fact. Quickly, 48.4 true shooting. Derrick Rose, 48.2. Not great, Bob. Not great. Like he is washed. And forget the offense, right? Because I could buy the argument that like the shot's gonna come around. He's gonna get his leg. Like, I can buy that. His defensive drop off has been massive. Like, yes, he can't get over screens. He's not trying to get over screens. And I don't necessarily blame him. He's a fragile dude. Like, he might just not want to take the contact. And he lost a lot of weight this offseason, which I don't think has worked out well. Um, I don't really get it. He shouldn't be in the rotation. They should probably try to trade him if they can, or just he's an expiring contract. Who cares? Just let it expire and have him sit around in the locker room and be a good vet. I'd be fine with that. He seems like a good vet. Seems like all the young guys really respect him. I'd be cool with that. But like, you don't. That's like those are like two of your biggest problems right there in terms of the rotation. Just you don't need to play them. You don't have to. Actually owning the fact that they're not working out well would probably buy you some credibility with a lot of fans. And then
Would
you
you
fire.
would you go so far as to dump like some of the protected picks to do that?
I don't think they need to though. That's my problem. Is like Rose especially, like, he's an expiring
Yeah.
contract. You don't need to do anything. Fournier, it's just like, I mean, if you didn't get any major offers from him last summer after what did he hit, like 241 threes or whatever the fuck he set that franchise record, you're probably never going to get an offer for him. So the two options you have are keep playing him because I have no clue, or two, stop playing him. And I'm convinced at this point. I'm convinced at this point that my theory about Quentin Grimes is accurate. That he's fine. And the reason they're exercising this crazy abundance of caution with him is because they don't want to deal with this roster log. They're trying to buy time to move off of some of these guys, some of these vets, maybe package, whatever it is. But like, just don't do that. Just stop playing Fournier. Like, I don't know. I just, it's driving me nuts, man. It is really driving me nuts to see some of the bullshit going on with this team right now, because this team could be fun. It could have a very clear direction, and it could all happen so easily. But they are so muddled right now with without picking a clear direction, without choosing what they want to prioritize. And I don't blame fans that are checked out right now. I don't, because like I found myself yesterday watching that game, and like, look, I watched the whole game. Yes, the Bills played one of the dumbest games I've ever watched in my life yesterday at the same time. But like, I was watching the Knicks game more than I was watching that until the second half, obviously, because I mean, once the Knicks game was over, then I was obviously free to do whatever. But like, it's just like I'm watching that game, and I understand why. Like, I saw like a ton of people probably on the timeline that were just like, "Oh, fuck the Knicks, I'm watching football," kind of thing. And it's like, I don't blame you. Like, I didn't want to watch that after a while either. I'm like, what is this? Like, you give up 145 points to OKC, which, like, one, I think people are like kind of being disrespectful to them because they're like, oh, it's just OKC. But it's like they put up 132 a night before, a couple of nights before, against Toronto, who I think everybody would say is a really good defensive team and
I
probably
mean,
one of the
they
best.
have a player who's legitimately playing like a star. Like
Yeah,
SG
yeah,
has taken that leap. He was better
yeah,
than anyone on the Knicks, not in terms of a future asset, just period right now.
yeah. And that's like, you got to respect that. What do you call it? Tip your cap to them. But it's not that they scored, it's how easy it was and that you never tried anything different. And it's like, again, like, you know, I keep saying try something different. Like, I'm sure people listen to this podcast like, Shwin, Stacy, can you guys fucking talk about something different? But it's like, we can't actually, because our franchise has been taken over by this fucking fat gremlin of a coach, and Julius Randle Grundle doing his bullshit wannabe franchise player impersonation. I don't know if I've ever seen anything more embarrassing, by the way, than that Julius Randle mic'd up against Brooklyn. That was like you want to see a guy who is completely deluded about his own standing in the NBA. Watch that. Listen to Julius Randle. Think that him and KD are about to have a one-on-one showdown here. I'm not the world's biggest KD fan, but let me tell you something. KD is 15,000 levels above whatever Julius Randle is as a player. That's not a showdown. That was just an embarrassing, pathetic demonstration of delusion from Julius.
Yeah, I mean, I think KD was just like sometimes you let your little brother get up on you on basketball, and then you take it from him, right? So Um, I mean, I think we're all over with Randall. What I think is interesting is if this front office did themselves a favor, what is the path? So I think we've talked about it, right? Move Fournier, Randall, and Rose. That you still have a top end talent issue, right? Um, I'm not out on RJ Barrett. He has quite a bit to prove. Cam Reddish has nice performances, but on offense, he's still a work in progress. Although it's been nice to see that they're salvaging some value, and maybe if they do make these trades, they can keep him around next year.
But one thing I think that's very notable about Cam yesterday, one of the most annoying things, like, so he had this game, what was it, a couple games ago against the Nets, right? He's 0-7, 0-4 from three. I haven't checked it. I would imagine he touched the ball 7 times and he shot it all times he got it because he wasn't involved. And I don't mean like, and that's not me taking a shot at Cam Reddish, by the way. I'm saying like, we've all played ball, right? If you're in one of these teams where it's like you don't touch the ball for minutes at a time, what are you going to do as soon as you get the ball, Stacey?
Jack it up.
That's what he did in that game. I have no problem with that. I can't blame him for that. To me, that's a symptom of the actual problem. And the problem is you're running this offense that doesn't have consistent flow to it, especially that starting group. So a guy like Cam, and we've seen this with all the guys that have filled into that spot, right? Fournier, Grimes in his one start, Cam, they just don't get a lot of shots. So what was nice yesterday in that OKC game was to see them. I don't know if it was intentional or if it was just one of those. It was, I mean, look, neither team exactly was, lighting it up on defense. So I don't know if it was like, they were actively trying to, but it was really nice to see him get in the flow. And I think what you saw is when he actually is involved offensively, when he is in the flow, I didn't think he didn't force up a lot of shots. He didn't make as many stupid decisions with the ball in his hands. Like he has a tendency to dribble into crowds without a plan. He did that once. SGA stripped him. But overall, I thought he had a pretty clean game in terms of decision making. And
He had even
again,
had a couple where he went into the defender's chest and finished
yeah,
through contact.
yeah,
There was one early where he, for some reason, he didn't
yeah.
do
And
that
Clyde
against
called him out on
Poku.
him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he missed the lay. It wasn't. I mean, the fact that he can get that shot off is nice. And if it was Rudy Gobert, I would appreciate it. But it was Poku, right? So you have to do that. But he did that multiple times later in the game. So he's learning.
yeah. And it's like, and then again, the point with Cam is also just like, yes, you're gonna have ups and downs because like that's the reason you got him, right? It's because he's not a fully formed, consistent player yet. But like, I've seen enough that like from him, especially considering how uninvolved offensively he is at times, which is not actually a fault of his own.
It's a little bit
I've
of fault of his own. He was much more active cutting yesterday as well. Sometimes he does float. I mean, it's
Yeah,
not completely on Tips. You have to give
yeah,
him. Yeah,
yeah. No, I think it is. I think the cutting issue is a team wide issue, which I think speaks to
that's fair.
systemic flaws.
I mean,
Um,
besides Obi, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And even that we don't use productively, really. Um, but like I've just seen enough from him where I'm like, okay, I think this is like I can't say they won the trade. You can't say that obviously, but like I think there was reason. I've seen enough that I think there was good reason to have made the move, and I would like to see more of him. I would love to see more of him get staggered minutes with the bench guys, as I would with RJ too. But like I've seen enough with Cam where I'm like, yeah, just keep putting him out there. Just keep putting him out there and let's see what happens. Because like you said, like yesterday, I mean, you talked about foot speed earlier, right? Like we've talked about this since we got Cam. There isn't really an opponent in the NBA that you feel like if you put him on the floor, you're at an athletic disadvantage with him. I think he athletically can compete against any opponent that there exists in the NBA.
Yeah, and I think and I would say I'm not I would say because of his length, like I don't think he is like some elite foot speed guy. But he's very smooth and coordinated, and he's super long, and he knows how to use it. I think that's how I'd phrase it. But I agree. Like, there's no one you'd be like, oh, he can't match up with them. Very few.
Yeah, there's no like, and I wasn't even speaking necessarily about a specific player, but more like, like there are matchups, right? Like for example, if we played, I don't know,
Dallas.
Memphis or Dallas. Like if we played Memphis, I'm not gonna like, I'm not looking forward to the Evan Fournier minutes, right? Like I think that team's like way too athletic. They could just completely own him, take advantage of him. There's not a team like that where I'm like, man, those Cam minutes on the floor might be really rough, just from a pure physical athletic point of view, right? Like he just has the tools that you look for in wings. And it's like, you know, I think Prez has talked about this before where it's like Cam is like a really, really good athlete at everything except for vertical pop, which is fair. And pretty accurate. But like, I mean, that is very notable when you're 6'8", right, 7'1", and you can move that fluidly. And I would
And
say
he's
this
got
too.
good strength too. Shout out Omar, but he like when he gets into a guy, I think he's reasonably strong and wiry.
Yeah, I think he actually struggles to know how to get into a guy sometimes,
Yeah,
which can like come across as a lack of physicality. And I have criticized him for that before too. And I think you're right that like that's actually like not his issue. Um, I know I like the lineups with him and Quickly. I wish they played more together because they're probably our two best like events creators defensively in terms of like
quickly and
deflections.
Reddish.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and just like getting into passing lanes and deflecting the
I'd put
ball.
Grimes in there, but given I don't know what his issue is, but yeah, I think
Yeah,
that I would agree with that.
Grimes' issue is that he's not Evan Fournier. Um, but like, yeah, it's just I would like to see that more, and I would like to see them too. Like those two with Obi, I think those groups when they got time together when Cam was coming off the bench, I thought those guys looked good. Um, they actually have a plus 5.4 net rating in 90 minutes together. But they probably won't ever play together again. So we're just stuck with this 90-minute sample that we have to extrapolate everything from, which doesn't make me feel great. But hey, uh, but yeah, I think, yesterday sucked, but I think it was really nice to see Cam have a really good game. And I thought quickly had a really good game. Um, and like it was nice. I think he looked for the first time in a long time. He looked decisive when he was putting the ball on the floor. Which to me, he's looked like he's in two minds too often this season. So it was nice to see that from him as well.
Yeah, and I mean it helps again playing against a bad defense. It's like QB struggling with bad accuracy. It helps when you're playing against a team that isn't putting up much resistance. But you saw kind of more of a mixed bag. He got to the line 8 times. Um, he's looking to attack and get 2 feet in the paint more. Overall, is a pretty encouraging performance. I think that with him, it's going to come down to can you get back to 37, 38% from three? Because the way he's playing on defense, I am going to actually. Let me ask you this: do you think the way Quickly has played this season and the end of last season on defense is better than what Ntilikina was on the Knicks? I say yes, but I'd be
Yeah,
curious
yeah, definitely, definitely. I mean,
because
Frank
he also
Frank
doesn't
was
foul as much.
yeah, he doesn't foul as much. I think he's more active. He's just generally more active as a team defender than Frank was. Frank had obviously possessions and stretches where he was really, really good on team defense, but I don't think he ever consistently has been as impactful defensively as Quickly has shown over a pretty long period of time. But before we continue, NBA fans, the NBA action is just getting started, and so are the incredible offers at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. New customers can make any $5 NBA pregame moneyline bet and get $200 in free bets if your team wins. Check this out right now. Everyone can earn up to a 100% boost with DraftKings Step Up Same Game Parlays. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app, place a same game parlay, and combine multiple bets like which team will win, total rebounds, total points scored, and more. With payouts bigger than ever, DraftKings Sportsbook is where I go to bet on the NBA. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code TBPN. Make any $5 bet this week and get $200 in free bets if your team wins. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with promo code TBPN. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. But yeah, to go back to it, yeah, I definitely think that he's been at a higher level defensively than Frank.
Yeah. I mean, Quickly's the best perimeter. Well, Grimes is, I think, right there with Quickly when healthy. That was an interesting topic of debate. I think we had DJ Ace Zulo on Twitter on the pod. And so I mean, I think that Grimes on like Quickly has improved on ball, but I mean, like in terms of guys who've been getting regular minutes, I'd say best perimeter defender the Knicks have had since Shumpert. Do you think Quickly's better defender? Probably not on ball the same menace, but off ball he's a little bit better, I would say.
I think he's way better than Shumpert. Shumpert was not that good.
On defense, yeah, he was off ball, not a good. I mean, yeah, he was
He
probably
like that man. He never saw a screen that he didn't want to die on
yeah, it's
completely.
true. So I mean, it's pretty uncanny to watch. And so he's that good of a a defensive player. Probably won't make an All NBA defensive team, but his impact, I think, at this point is not too far from that, like being an elite perimeter defender. And if he gets back to 37, 38% from three, that is, you don't have to use the word all-star, but that is a mass. He's already an impactful player, right? And he's shooting 28% from three. The question is he just going to be a good utility player who can create some offense but isn't particularly efficient? Or are we going to see the defender that quickly has been with the offensive player he was as a rookie? Um, you know, that would be pretty incredible. So, obviously, how many steals did he have yesterday, by the way?
I think he had 3. I gotta check.
It
I'll
felt
check.
like he had a ton of deflections. Like,
Yeah, he did. He actually had one where he saved Julius, who fell asleep, and he like somehow managed to strip the ball away when I want to say Poku was maybe going up for a shot. I don't remember who it was. Somebody that Julius was supposed to be guarding but decided not to. Anyway.
yeah, I mean, Frank Barrett did a great thread for the Strickland. I mean, yeah, like in the fourth, everyone was checked out, and you can see so many possessions where Quickly's not only doing his job, but everyone else's. In one player in particular who is physically much bigger than Quickly, right? So I mean, I think that, and it gets back to this, right? You have a bunch of guys whose offensive process has been better, but you're just not seeing the results, right? Reddish, and there's another part of that thread. Reddish has actually gone full Maury ball in terms of his shot chart.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean that's what I'm saying. Like that's why I'm like pretty encouraged him. Not just the shot, like the shot chart, and then I think his defense is like genuinely.
yeah,
I'm not ready to say it's been like good, but he's way more locked in, and he's done a better job of getting over screens and stuff like that, which that was a huge problem for him last year and going back in his career. So yeah, you have to be encouraged. Again, like I know we talked a lot about Reddish just now, but like yeah, I think you have to be very encouraged by what you've seen from him so far.
yeah, and between the two of them yesterday, Quickly and Reddish had 7 steals and 2 blocks,
Mhm.
which is 2 blocks more than any other player on the roster had yesterday. So yeah, I mean, like they need to be playing more. They need to be playing more. If RG, like, Fournier needs to be deprioritized. Rose needs to be deprioritized. And this
Those
is
guys
without
they
even
just need
saying
to not
Grimes.
play. They just need to not play. Like my thing that's really driving me nuts with this team is what are you trying to be as a team? Like, what are you? And I don't mean this in terms of like, we've talked a lot about like the organization has to make a clear, pick a direction. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about as a coach, right? If I'm Tips, I'm the head coach of this team. What do I want the identity of this team to be? And how do I go about achieving that? And yeah, we can sit here and talk about, oh, the 3-point shooting is a problem. I agree, it is a problem. Okay. But that's one problem. Like, what you can be to me is a pretty solid defensive team. And to that end, like I know Derek is his guy. I know Derek Rose is his guy. But like what has he done so far that you're like I don't know, like I would like to see Deuce. I would like to see Deuce get a shot. I don't think it's asking a whole lot after a game where you give up 145 to consider playing a guy with his defensive chops, especially given the Knicks' struggles throughout the season
With
defending
perimeter
point
foot speed.
yeah, perimeter foot speed and just general point of attack defense. That's like very specifically a thing that Deuce and Grimes, who, that's why like I think a lot of people are bullish about what Grimes can give this team. That's something that those two guys are really good at. And I think just needs to get a shot. Like I'm and you know what? I'll go even crazier. I'll say this. Evan Fournier right now just looks completely cooked to me. I get that like Tibbs wants him out there because he trusts him as a shooter.
And he's
Are
a
we
smart defender. He just
is
is
he?
very slow.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't know about all
His
that. But
mistakes usually don't seem to be mental. He's just,
yeah,
Ole Matador stuff.
yeah. Are we sure that Svi isn't better than Fournier right now? I'm not
Maybe.
joking when I say that.
Like, this is the kind of stuff you should be trying to find out. This is there was a movie made recently about a player who once played for the Knicks. That was a Knicks team with high expectations. They had Amari Stoudemire and Carmelo Anthony. And those starting point guards weren't working, so we throw in this 15th guy off the bench who was living on Landry Fields' couch, and it worked out, and it improved the team, and obviously, but these are the kinds of things you want to find out right now. Whatever happened with Lynn afterwards, they increased his value, and if they had been able to keep him, they could have traded him or something. So these are the kinds of things you should be trying to figure out if you're a team that probably isn't contend for a championship. Yeah, so why not Svi?
Yeah, and I mean, this is actually the part of the pod where we clamor for Trevor Keels to get more of a look, right? No, but like, I only say this V thing semi facetiously, but exactly to the point you're making is like we just need to be trying shit with this team. Like that's the type of roster this is, and like I'm sure there are people that are like, you're so annoying about Quickly's minutes. I'm sure I am. I don't deny that. But like I would be much less frustrated by his minutes if we were trying things in lieu of it that like were worth pursuing and like are things that we have not tried or different looks. But that's not what we're doing, right? And like, look, we don't know what we haven't seen enough of a sample of like of um Quickly and Deuce together, right? We just haven't because they have barely played. But like they actually looked pretty good last year when they played together. They're pretty effective
I mean,
too. Like
some of the best moments the Knicks had. So there's the Clippers game, and there is that Heat comeback. Quickly gets a lot of the credit for that Heat comeback. Deuce was
Deuce was
right
great.
there. Deuce
Yeah,
made some big rebounds.
he
He
blocked
could,
Kyle Lowry,
yeah.
like
Um,
which apparently is not a big deal anymore because Kyle Lowry apparently is just fucking cooked now.
and
Um,
um, and I think the concern with Deuce is I have not seen enough from him to warrant confidence in his ability to create looks. Right, get downhill, create opportunities for others. He's a smart passer, and he can hit pull up threes, but Quickly is way ahead of him in that regard. But hey, he's perfectly capable of playing the two of guarding either position on defense. They are both terrific help defenders. I think there's synergy there. They make themselves better, make each other better. Why wouldn't you try that? Well, we got to get Derrick Rose minutes. Well, what is that getting you right now?
yeah, it's not getting you anything, and I don't think like the offensive juice that we're apparently like I think because that's probably the logic, right? He's like, oh, like Rose gives us more explosiveness offensively. Again, he's got a lower true shooting percentage than Quickly, which by the way is that this is not me saying Quickly doesn't need to shoot better. He does, but like Quickly can shoot like shit, and he can still be grading out as a massive plus. Okay, that's just how it works for him because he's a really good defensive player who does things that impact the game. Um, if you're not getting some awesome offensive production from Derrick Rose, just lean into the defense. Like, and so I just looking this up quickly and Miles McBride have played 306 minutes together going back to last season. In that time, in 306 minutes, they have a plus 21.16 net rating.
There is
Uh,
going to be some skew because they had a couple of games last year where they just blew
yes.
teams out.
Well, there was that Houston game, which was insane. There was that Pistons game, which was insane. So this is not to say that 100% these two like just play them together. The Knicks
There was
win a
the
championship.
Clippers game, the
Yeah,
36-4, right?
yeah,
So
that was one too. But it's like this isn't. I don't think either of us is arguing that Quickly and Miles McBride is the
they're going to
found.
outscore teams by 21 points every
Yeah,
time.
they're not the foundation. I don't think of like a championship starting five or something. But like, maybe you have something there. Like maybe you have an awesome bench backcourt. And guess what? Maybe Deuce starts hitting threes. Maybe Quickly starts hitting threes. Maybe these guys play really, really well, increase their value, and now you actually have a trade chip. Derrick Rose is not going to turn into some valuable trade chip. He's just not. And you're not getting anything out of him in the present that matters either materially. So why not give Deuce a shot? Like if these guys are situational, then I mean, I feel like yesterday was the situation. Like, oh, we can't stop anybody. Maybe let's put in the defensive guard who can block up at the point of attack and is super physical fighting over screens. I don't know. I just feel like if you're gonna tell me guys are situational, that seems like the fucking situation.
Shout out Jersey Shore.
Yes.
Um, yeah, I mean, we just have guys that are young players who are viable, who aren't getting a shot, for guys who aren't meaningful, raising the ceiling of this team. And I get that there's some of it. I think Alan Hahn was talking about this, um, earlier this season, and he was saying, people want to bench Evan Fournier, but he's a vet, and the guys who play hard have to play hard, right? Because they're just not that good. And then if you go back to Evan Fournier and say, I need you to save my ass after you benched him, doesn't look as good, right? I'm not so sure Evan Fournier is saving anyone's ass right now. Um, Derrick Rose might. I believe the offense will come around. But it's still, I mean, what is the fantasy there, right? That he's gonna carry you to the eights. I mean, we just there's no other ways. This team has a low ceiling. So if you want to excuse Tibbs for saying, well, this team just doesn't have a lot of talent on it. Well, why not try some of the newer things? Why not try to see if the sum can be greater than the parts with interesting lineups, right? Just not seeing that. And this team could be fun. I mean, there are some really fun lineups you can put out there, right? Let's start one with that. That's what I've been thinking about a lot. Quickly, RJ, Cam, Obi, Sims, right? Just very switchable and quick. If it's against second unit, RJ probably is going to have some easier opportunities. And that's another thing I'd like to see more of is RJ getting to play with the second unit. I think he has some nice chemistry with Cam, but just moving him up, it moves him away from Julius Randle, and B, it should give him some easier opportunities, right? He won't have to play against the team's best perimeter defender or one of those players like that. I think that you can do some fun things with Hartenstein on offense. Against teams that go five out, as we saw yesterday, it can be tough. I even think Randall and Obi has worked. Dan, it was Dan Faville who wrote the article you posted today, right?
Mhm.
He
It's
he
Dan
had a
Favali.
Favali, sorry,
Yeah.
apologies, Dan. That was this piece was excellent. He wrote a good one a couple of days ago. That was also very comprehensive on the Knicks, but the takeaway from that was more on firing Tibbs. But we haven't gone back to Obi and Randall, and he made a good point that yeah, they have a negative plus minus for this season, but that's skewed right by a couple of disastrous stints, and the sample is just way too small. And especially when a team is going five out, I understand Sims brings you some of that. And for what it's worth, Sims was a +9 yesterday. He does give you the perimeter foot speed to deal with that. But we didn't try Obi and Randall at all yesterday, and especially Obi played 14 minutes. You know, 10 points in 14 minutes. He is a prolific scorer, and and I don't think his defense was great, but Randall is walking up the floor so many times. He is just watching. He gets back at the rim and he just watches defenders go in for layups. And it would have looked actually a lot worse if guys like Quickly and Cam didn't bail him out a ton. And so you're not getting what are you getting from Tibbs at this point? He is the tough guy who holds players accountable and gets the most out of them. That's what Randall said his rookie season, right? We're not
Not
seeing
as
that.
not as not as. I know what you're saying. His first season in New York.
Sorry, yeah, not
Yeah.
his rookie season. Um, his rookie season actually, unfortunately, missed with a broken leg. Um, it- that we're not seeing that, not just with Randall. RJ Barrett's lack of engagement and the technique is very alarming to me. Not because I don't believe in him as a player, but because he is the guy that you need to be getting the most out of. And given his work ethic and his professional attitude, to see that from him means that something's up. I will say the players who seem to have responded to Tibbs are the ones he's made earn their minutes. So Reddish, clearly, whatever you wanted to say about him in other parts of his career, guy thinks he's a star. Guy doesn't try on defense. Poor attention. He's looked a lot better at those things. Quickly, obviously, continues to play with his hair on fire on defense, no matter how poorly he is on offense. Obi is going to run the floor every game like he's Justin Jefferson. Sorry, I had to. He's going to do these things, and like those are the guys that are responding, which is good to see. But the cost of that is if less minutes is what's getting these guys to play harder, guaranteed minutes are clearly having the opposite effect on one player in particular. But we've seen it also with Mitch. We've seen at times when Mitch gets into bad ruts, Tibbs will guarantee his minutes. And so you have to like we're not getting that. Tibbs is supposed to be a great defensive coach. You can argue that there are some poor defenders on the roster, but he doesn't hold them accountable. He doesn't give them fewer minutes, and he's unwilling to adapt his scheme to maybe put them in better positions. So you're not getting the tough defensive minded coach. Okay, I actually think that when he's forced into a corner, we've seen some reasonable offensive schemes from him. Not really getting that from him. And overall, you're just not getting a team that I mean, his first season, and even for a good chunk of last season, right? You knew that this was a team that was maybe short on high end talent, but you could depend on them to come out and be a pain in the ass that any night that you played. And even their first season, even before that 9-0 or the 9 game winning streak, that was what was really refreshing to hear teams say, right? Going to Madison Square Garden is no longer some joke. The Knicks are not like a punchline. Like, they're probably not going to win a ton. They're not going to be a contender, but nobody wants to play them. That doesn't seem to be the case anymore. So, what are you getting from Tibbs at this point? Regardless of the youth conversation or any of those things, you're just not getting anything. And I do think, as I mentioned, player accountability seems to be an issue for him, at least for the stars. So
Yeah, I mean, look, I think RJ might be checked out. Um, I I actually I DM'd this to Benji, I think at some point, but like I don't know if you're on this team, how do you dial it up on defense when you know that Randall never will and will never be held accountable? But if you don't, you will. I think that shit just doesn't fly after a while. Like Tibbs's whole you know, kind of hard charging disciplinarian style, it requires guys buy in. And the way you get guys to buy in is when they feel like not just everybody's being held to the same standard. Look, Bill Parcells talked about this, right? Like, obviously, he had a little bit more leeway for Lawrence Taylor than he had for like fucking, I don't know, Jeff Hostetler or something, right? Like, there's obviously a big difference between these guys. So you're gonna have,
Shark changed linebacking forever.
yeah, Shark did change linebacking forever. True story. You can't just say goodbye to these guys with class. um, but like, what that requires is that your star deliver some type of star level performance, right? If that doesn't happen and you're still treating them the same way and you're not getting on them, but you're getting on everybody else, and maybe even over the like, I think it's over the top. Some of the stuff he does with Obi, especially.
Yeah, I mean, you can make the argument Randall had 25 points efficiently
Yeah,
yesterday, but Obi was playing well on offense too. So and it's not like and your best shot creators were Brunson. So yeah, or quickly even. So I don't know, but yeah, go ahead.
yeah. No, I mean that was all I was gonna say. It's just like it's it's hard, I think, for these guys. Like, and this has been the case for Tibbs in most of his stops, right? Where it's like after a couple of years, the message gets a little bit stale, and I think he gets too attached to certain players, and that loyalty, especially when you're attaching yourself to the wrong guys, that can be a killer. And
And
look,
Julius makes the least amount of sense because attaching that loyalty to even Derrick Rose, I get. Attaching that to Jimmy Butler, who is, I mean, yeah, like that's a guy. He's the stereotypical foxhole guy, right? If you want, right? Like, I mean, I know you're a huge Jimmy Butler fan. Those make sense, but why Randall? Like a guy who doesn't give a shit on defense, which I guess Rose didn't either early in his career, but
but
man,
he was also like,
an MVP level,
yeah,
defensive player.
right. It's like if Julius is giving you MVP level offense, that's a totally different question, right? A totally different proposition that you're dealing with. But he's not. He's playing like a total mercenary, and he's not competing on defense. I mean, forget the defense. I could maybe even deal with the shitty defense if he would box somebody out and get a few defensive rebounds. He won't even do that. He won't even do that. It's beyond frustrating for me at this point. And like I saw people yesterday criticizing Sims and Sims. I don't think Sims has played particularly great. I'm not going to claim that he has, but like, and look, we've talked enough about my issues with Mitch versus your thoughts on Mitch, and look, whatever. But like, I think these guys. I mean, I agree with you. Like, if they're just being put in really tough positions, if your four isn't going to do anything on defense, it's impossible to be a good defense. It just is. Like,
Shout out Dallas Amico. I won.
yes. But like,
I've had that argument with him. I mean I think that the
yeah.
4 is arguably after center the most important position on defense. So yeah.
Yeah, and I just think like you're not getting anything from him. And it's like you know what? Let's just say this. Look, Obi is let's just say he's a bad defender. Okay? Obi's a bad defender. I will take a bad defender who tries, who is like flying around trying to make rotations, who will hustle back on defense, who will get destroyed on the glass, but at least he's like trying to box out. I will take that. I will take that over whatever Julius is giving us right now. And I get it's tricky. It's tricky. You know, Julius is making this much money and we got to try to find a way to trade him, blah, blah, blah. Okay. But figuring that out cannot come at Obi's expense anymore. And when it does, I just wonder what kind of signal that sends out to this team. Like, I'm not trying to give RJ a pass for being bad on defense, but like, I understand it. Like, I understand from his perspective. He's probably like, look, I'm the highest paid player on the team. Why am I feeling like a third priority to the current coach? And why is the organization cool with that? And if that's the case, why should I be? You guys try to trade for Donovan Mitchell. Well, why, what is the reason that I should be like so committed to this right now if you're not even reciprocating that? You're not giving me a reason, And like, Brunson hasn't said anything. I'm not worried about him in terms of defensive effort, but like, it does feel to me a little bit like the issues that we're seeing from him are being heavily exacerbated by it's like a trickle down effect of Julius. And like that's honestly how I feel about a lot of our defensive issues is that I think a ton of it is just trickle down of Julius, whether that be other guys not buying in as much or just like actual schematic issues that, his lack of rotation or slow rotations or not rotating at all, what that opens up for other teams to exploit. I think it's multiple, but I think he's killing us to get this. He is absolutely killing us this year on defense. Um, and he's letting so many guys hang out to dry. I mean, that walk up three that Dort took yesterday, he gave up that same exact three to Brogdon against Boston a week ago.
Yep.
It's like he's done that multiple times now. And you can sit there and try and defend, oh, actually, he's the low man. He's got to tag this guy. Like, shut up. All right. Like, we all watch sports. There's not a single sport. Okay. I don't know about you. I grew up playing soccer, right? In soccer, even when you're off the ball, you're taught to like constantly be checking what's around you, keep your feet moving. Okay? Constantly be around. This guy will have possessions where he's just standing in the paint
Completely
without
upright. Yeah.
yeah, completely upright. I don't care. Oh, he's the low man. He can't rotate out.
He could
Shut
play
up.
he could play the outfield in cricket,
Yeah,
so
yeah, he
maybe.
could, but no, because even then, these guys have to like run around a lot. Like this, it's just crazy to me that there are people defending this type of shit. Like, stop trying so hard. Stop trying to galaxy brain your way into like pretending Julius Randle is a good basketball player right now. He's not. He's awful. He's awful. As far as we've played 13 games so far. We played some bad teams, played some really good teams. His defensive effort out of all those teams, out of all the players we played, the only player that comes to mind who I was like, man, that was a pretty garbage defensive effort was probably like D'Lo or Ant in that Minnesota game.
Yeah. And
And
Ant
like,
looks very much checked out right now. So
right. And it's like, so is that really like that's what we're hanging on? But at least in Ant's case, you're like third year player, probably going to be a stud at some point once he gets his, shit together. But it's like D'Lo is like the same caliber of dude to me that Julius Randle is. Are they inherently bad basketball players? No. But they were, I'm going to use a SAT word, they were feted as potential franchise players. They're not. They're not potential franchise guys. Like,
but I think
so
even D'Lo at least embraces that. And point of attack defense, we did talk about it a lot, but that doesn't have to submarine your team's defense if you have good help defenders around them, right? Especially at a position like the 4. The Timberwolves do not right now, and that's becoming problematic. But here's the thing: if you have aggressive point of attack defenders, you can get away with someone maybe like Randall, but you have to have high level guys there, right? You can get away with someone like Randall isn't a great weak side rim protector, or going to be a great team defender. If you have poor guys like Fournier and Brunson who are going to give up penetration against elite guards, it helps to have, I mean, there's a guy in Washington who used to play for the Knicks who's quietly been very good this year. It helps to have someone like that who can clean up those mistakes, right? But you can't do both, right? And then I'll stick with this, right? Like Hartenstein is a very good defender, but he has limitations in terms of mobility, and I think there was a lot that Mitch was cleaning up with Randall, based on Randall and Fournier and last year Kemba. And I think now it's just now there's nothing, and they're putting Hartenstein in tough situations he can't handle. And I don't know who was telling you that Sims played that bad yesterday. He wasn't perfect. Definitely has to do. He's a little undersized and all that. Guess who had the highest plus minus on the team? No Sims, right? Coincidentally, against a team that plays 5 out, which is kind of what you want Sims for. And he did get
Well,
25 minutes.
and isn't that this again highlights Tibbs's just total inflexibility? You're absolutely right. Like Sims is the best center we have against a team that goes 5 out. Why? Because he can switch.
Yeah.
Because in blitz, he can trap. He's athletic. He can get out high on the floor, recover back to his man. He can do those things. Did we have him do that once yesterday? Or we just played drop the entire time? What is the
even
point?
then? It's impressive that he was able to close out better than guys like Hartenstein or Mitch. But
Right.
to your point, it doesn't maximize him by any means, right?
Right. And it's like, if you were going to play because you needed to have a 5 on the floor, if you were going to use Sims like that, then at least use him in the most optimal way, especially against this opponent. It's just.
By the way,
look,
another guy who's been hurt by having to play drop at this point is lack of engagement is so bad that I don't know if any other scheme would help him. But the insistence on putting Randall in drop coverage
my God.
also is awful. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
we're not the first people to talk about this.
Yeah, and I mean, when he does that, he has them play drop when it's Obi and him together at the 4 and 5, and it's like this is like what you're trying to do with that group. If you're playing Obi and Randall together, is you need to be trying to create variance by just generating events and pushing pace, and it's like the way to do that is what playing aggressive defensive schemes or at least switching more, right? Like putting them in drop. It's kind of like I get it, right? I get when Thibs is like, I don't really like what that. I get his hesitation, but it's like his hesitation is predicated on the idea that like we have to play drop. It's not because there's no potential way that like they could even hold water defensively. It's that he doesn't want to play that way. He doesn't even want to try to play that way.
And it would make sense to not play. It makes sense to play drop if you had. I mean, it makes sense to play drop when you have quickly going over screens, right? Not when it's Brunson and Fournier. I think Brunson's effort has been good, but he's not great at contesting from behind. He doesn't have very long arms, and it's just it doesn't make sense. He can if you give him someone if you use hedges or if you play the defender farther up, he's good at recovering if he has a little bit more of a window or even switching sometimes. But we're just not playing to any of these players' strengths even on defense.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I don't know. This team is just really, it's frustrating because I think this team could be in a good position, not a perfect position, still plenty of stuff that you got to clean up, but like cap wise and all that shit. But like, they could be a fun team. They could be a fun and exciting team. That could be a team that feels like it's going somewhere and working towards something. And right now, it just feels like they are just cool with 41 and 41 potentially. They don't really care how they
I'm
get
not
there.
even sure I have confidence in that at this point.
Yeah, I don't with this coach. I'll say that. I think I mean, look, think of it this way. This is the craziest thing probably to me, right? If I told you before the season, okay, before the season, I tell you this, that that Obi would be shooting 61 true shooting, he's shooting 40% from three. If I told you that Jalen Brunson would be 59 true shooting, averaging 20 and 7. If I told you that Julius Randle would be at 58 true shooting, averaging 20 and 9 or whatever the hell he is averaging, 21 and 9. If I told you that RJ Barrett would be 19 points per game, he would have a 53 true shooting, struggling from three, but 53 true shooting, getting to the line and finishing at the line more effectively. If I told you that Cam Reddish had actually been playing productive basketball for us and all these things, right? Would you expect people to be as miserable as they are about this team? And like,
if you told me Mitch got hurt, I would suspect that would play, but yeah, not this miserable.
Yeah, and I don't think the misery, like, to me, I don't see people complaining about, like, "Oh, I'm so pissed we lost." I think it's like, I'm pissed we're losing in the way we are losing in terms of, like, how we're going about things. And that's the frustration. This is why I wanted to fire Tibbs last year, and why I thought it was so imperative that they trade Randall, because they chose not to fire Tibbs. Because these two things on top of each other are just like a huge problem, and they're a huge detriment to working towards a a, a better long term future for this team. I mean, Julius is 20 years old. I don't think he's getting any better. I don't think he's changing who he is. Right? It's just it's all very very frustrating. And like, like Hartenstein, I've been as critical of him as anybody, but like, I don't think he's being put in great positions with kind of like how we're necessarily using him, or you know, are we protecting him on defense? I don't think it's protecting him very much to be like, hey, go play a bunch of minutes with Julius Randle, and despite that, despite his struggles and issues and blah, 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 he's right now, he's got of the Knicks' main rotation player, he's got the third best on court rating. Derrick Rose still up there with
Hartenstein?
the plus. Yeah, he's got third best on court rating. He's got the second best on off of the major rotation players.
Is
Um,
Reddish top?
no, Quickly's top. Hartenstein is second. In terms of on off, Quickly's plus 10.1, Hartenstein's 8.5, Rose is 6.2. That seems weird to me. That doesn't really match up with the eye
Well, he
test.
gets to play with quickly a lot.
Yeah, it's true. And then Reddish is actually plus 5.6, OB plus 4.5. Uh, I mean, again, like, I don't know how else to say this, but like, we are again in a situation where the coach seems to have no idea of how to like find the plus players and play them together more frequently than he does the groups that don't work together. The starting lineup 30 in a row, it's not work great. It's not work great.
I mean,
Um,
it baffles me why Fournier has been playing so much. Um, but it's. I mean, I get that you can make the case that Randall, Barrett, Brunson are your three best players. Like you can't just. But it's year three of Randall and RJ. What more do you need to see? Year four. Sorry. What more do you need to see? Like you need to experiment a little bit more. And if you're worried about the second unit not having needing Derrick Rose and not trusting quickly, play RJ with them, right? They play well off each other. Um, but I think that even then, right? I came into the season knowing that there would be things that pissed me off. But early in the season, if you remember, like even after they lost to Milwaukee and Cleveland, I think I was a little bit more optimistic than you were. I liked that he was trying certain things. I thought Brunson had been playing well. I liked that he didn't have really a quick hook for quickly. I thought that of the thing, the main complaint seemed to be he's not playing Cam Reddish enough. But he was letting quickly close. I was generally okay until this. I mean, it probably was not a coincidence that I was at this game and the second half of the second and third quarter of that Atlanta game. Really, by the fourth quarter, it was a moot point. Is where that was just it was like every loss from last season, failure to adapt, big blown lead, etc. The Philadelphia game, again, Maxey just went off on the Knicks. There wasn't until late in the game when he started using Reddish more on him. There wasn't a proper adjustment. Knicks were very fortunate to win that game. And then since then, we've just had a slew of horrible defensive performances. 133 to, yes, a talented but Boston team. They were better against Minnesota, 107. Just the Brooklyn game was one of the worst performances I've ever seen from a Knicks team.
that just looked that they were checked out. They were checked out. It's a national TV game.
And I think they've honestly been checked out since that. I mean, I don't think they were that great against Minnesota. So the last three games, I don't think they've played well. Detroit should not have been that difficult. And this is not me trying to shit on Detroit. Obviously, they're a talented team. I like a lot of their young players. The Knicks, I don't think the Knicks played particularly well. And then yeah, yesterday, like there's just 145 points to any team. Like this is not just shitting on Oklahoma City. If they give up 145 points to I don't know, like Dallas or something,
I thought they were awful against the Pistons, by the way. I
yeah,
thought
they
that was
didn't
like
play
a
that well.
pretty discouraging performance. I was saying it at the time. I watched that game at a bar with Jeremy and British Jack and a few other people. And it's like, Yeah, it's just that fourth quarter I thought was terrible. Like they couldn't get a stop in the fourth quarter at all. And it's like I know Killian Hayes like played a decent game against Boston the day after, but it's like, bro, like what are we doing here? You let Killian Hayes dot you up with passes like you're overreacting to his playmaking. Like the guy doesn't want to shoot. You know what I mean? Like just make him shoot. And it's just, but again, it's like teams know exactly what the Knicks are going to throw at them defensively. And at that level, at the NBA level, these guys are too good. Even the shittiest player in the NBA is too good to like give an edge like that, where you already know every single time what's coming. You know, um,
Let's give Killian Hayes some credit. I mean, you were the one who talked me into him. Draft class 2000, whatever it was. That was
I own
that
my mistakes. I own my
that was.
mistakes.
I think we were all in on. We all missed on Killian.
Yeah.
Like I'm happy we had Obi over Killian Hayes for sure, and that was not how I felt that day. Um, but I mean, also looking ahead, right? At Utah, team that plays 5 out. I don't know to what extent their players are going to have some animosity against the Knicks, right? But that's not a game. They're playing really well, so forget about any of that. They've looked better than the Knicks have.
Yeah.
They're
I mean, it's
going,
hard. It's crazy though. I don't know how they're doing it without a superstar.
yeah, right. Um, and and shout out. I mean, they've gotten some really good play from some really good players. But I'm not confident in them with the Knicks winning that, and I think that could get ugly on the road.
It's actually kind of funny. I weirdly feel like the Knicks are going to win that game because I just think it's like the dumbest game that like they could win. Where it's like this team that's been fucking awesome all year. And it just feels like one of those games where like Julius randomly goes off for like 40 or something, and then his like legion of fans will be like, "See, you
See,
guys are all so stupid," and I'm like, "No, this is great. We should trade him today. Like right now is when we should trade him."
yeah, and I
Um,
mean, at least if you want to talk yourself into it, um, I mean, Jordan Clarkson is probably going to go off because the Knicks just, unless the Knicks play quickly Grimes, Cam a lot more. But they aside from that, they don't have one of these. I mean, they have Sexton. Conley is not like this blow by guard. You can talk yourself into the Knicks not getting torched, even though they are 5 out. Jared Vanderbilt isn't really a big time shooter. Kelly Olynyk will probably hit a couple of annoying threes and do annoying Kelly Olynyk things, but you can talk yourself into that, and you can. I personally hope that Julius Randle's idea of a good game is not just trying to ISO Jared Vanderbilt all the time because he's going to do that stupid spin move and probably lose the ball a bunch of times. But you could talk yourself into that. But that's not a game I would expect them to win. Then they go the next night, second night of a back to back. Has Tibbs ever beaten Denver? By the way,
we haven't beaten Denver in Denver since that Jamal Crawford game.
yeah. Has Tibbs even won
No,
against Denver at home?
no,
Yeah,
we've done
because
destroy. We because he just. I don't even want to get it. It's like you can't. Nikola Jokic is one of one, so I'm fine if you don't beat them. But it's like they've made it way too easy for him, and yeah, it's just it always sucks.
yeah, and I mean Mitch still isn't healthy, but it's not like he's been an answer for that. Golden State, do they have any good perimeter players who can shoot threes? I don't know, but if they do, then that seems like a
Well,
bad match.
apparently not Clay anymore though.
Yeah. Phoenix has not been as great as you maybe we would have thought before the season. They're still 8-4. They're not a team the Knicks have had much success against in the Devin Booker era. Then we go back to OKC. I mean, the Knicks. This could conceivably turn into a 6-game losing streak, or maybe one win against Utah if you buy that. So
Yeah, I mean, like I really hate this, and I genuinely mean this. I like can't watch the Knicks play a game and be like, I want them to lose, even though I know that like them losing potentially means that Tibbs goes, and that maybe like I know that there are potential better ramifications for losing. Hell, get a better draft pick, right? Like there's all kinds of like value and potential reasons to want them to lose. I just can never bring myself to root for it, but like it's depressing to like talk to fans who feel that way. They're like, it's better if we just lose and get fucking Tibbs gone. Like that's what it's come to, and it's like, that just sucks because I don't. Who the hell wants to do that? You watch you like we all invest so much time into these fucking sports teams and shit. It's like you want to feel like you're rooting for something that is going somewhere that feels like there's a reason to actively watch the games and like want them to win and stuff. And it's like when you get to this point where you just feel like you want to lose so that coach X gets fired or they trade player Y or whatever the reason is, it just sucks. Like right now, this just feels like this feels like a better version of the end of the Fizdale era. Um, like how many blowouts have like the Knicks have already lost? They're absolutely crushed already 3 times, right? OKC, Brooklyn,
Uh,
Atlanta.
yeah, I'd have to say OKC counts the blow up. Yeah, I mean, yeah, the Brooklyn game was the low point, or no, maybe not the low point. Maybe it was just a sign of things to come.
Yeah, the Atlanta game for me is a low point. I mean, at that point, I was just like, there's you can do whatever you want, but like, it's not going to happen after this. But hey, look, like,
Especially discouraging though to see a team. We just talked about Utah, right? A team that is playing well above its head, that's playing much better than the pieces on the floor. A team like Charlotte, even without LaMelo, was playing better earlier this season. And they're, they obviously are now team tank, but look at even around the league. Portland is 9-4, right? On our schedule, there's so many teams that are playing that, maybe Portland is a bad example, but a team like Oklahoma City, a team like maybe Utah. Utah is legitimately might have to rethink their strategy because I guarantee you Ainge did not come into the season thinking this would happen. Are they a team that lets it roll and says, sorry, I guess we're not doing the Wemby thing? I don't know. But it's extremely frustrating in a season where teams like there are teams that are probably going to have to have a conversation with the coach to be like, we need to lose games, or that might happen where they have to do those things versus the Knicks who probably should do that. It'd probably be better for them to tank, but they're not doing that, or at least they're not playing the young players because somehow they believe it'll get them closer to 38 to 40. The Knicks are dead mediocre. That's what they've been, and there's no they're not playing better than expected, and they're not doing well enough to tank, and they're not making any changes, and the coach isn't trying really new things. And it's been this way that was the most frustrating part about last year. It wasn't that the Knicks were bad. It's just they were just dead mediocre. And forget about just the tank. And there's the whole debate about tanking, or should you try to be as good as you can. I get the people who are against tanking, and I'm not saying the Knicks should, but it just, as a fan, just being mediocre all the time, every year, and like the same thing, and getting there the same way, basically, is
yeah,
it's just less fun as a fan.
I mean, that's the
For not
frustration,
even
right?
about Wembanyama or like watching draft clips, just watching the Knicks every night, like knowing that I'm going to see the same shit.
Um, I mean, that's the frustration, right? It's that like it's not that you're mediocre every year; it's how you're being mediocre. That's the issue, and it's like, okay, you go 41-31, you get the 4 seed. I get it. I get it.
Almighty fourth seed.
Yeah, almighty 4 seed. Like I get why it's hard as an organization to maybe have the foresight or be willing to make the tough decision of like, hey, you know what? Let's just trade Randall now. Let's get out ahead of this. This team had a fun season, but this is not a sustainable thing. Let's try and get some assets and let's lean into the direction that we were thinking about leaning into anyway. Okay, fine. You don't do that. You try to build off that. I get it. I get it. It didn't work out. It hasn't worked out. You go get Jalen Brunson. That's fine. I get it. Really good point guard. You get Hartenstein, nice solid centerpiece. Like these are fine moves, but you're not fundamentally altering your approach. You're not fundamentally changing the conditions of the team, changing the environment, changing how players are going to be used, changing what lineups we're going to see because you've kept the two biggest obstacles to that and you haven't moved on from it. And I think I don't think it's about being 6-7. I think if this team was 6-7 without Julius Randle or Tibbs, people would be fucking thrilled. They'd be
I mean, I
having a
think we
party.
would probably have predicted something like that. Like before the season, I mean, I probably would have predicted a loss. I mean, there isn't a game that the Knicks lost so far until Oklahoma City where I was like, okay, before the season, I would have predicted a win. Maybe the Atlanta game, I guess. That's it. So, but they also got lucky, not having to face Embiid in Philadelphia. So 6-7, 7-6, maybe is probably what we'd have expected coming into the season. But the last 3 games have been just very, very uninspiring.
Yeah. Um, yeah,
So
it sucks. Yeah.
aside from trade Fournier, Rose, Randall, um, what would kind of be, because the Knicks still need to add high end talent at some point. Have you thought kind of about what if you're Leon Rose, what you're starting to do right now? Like, what's the
Sorry,
plan and what's your vision for this team?
say it again.
So, if let's pretend you, Schwinn, are now been transported into Leon Rose's body.
Whew.
Beyond the obvious things that we've talked about, what's kind of your vision for like the next season or two, and how do you get to the Knicks to contention on whatever you think is a reasonable timeline?
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think you can. I think the biggest mistake people, not people, but like that often gets kind of like floated as this is how every one team wins a championship every year. You can be really successful as a team and not win a championship. Check out the Rockets for like, from like 2009 to like whenever they traded Harden finally. Like they won a lot of games. I think they might have won the most games in the NBA over that time period. Never won a championship. Never even made the finals. So like you're not gonna nothing you do, no path you choose, no method is a guarantee of anything. Okay. Um, but like what the Knicks need to do is again, I just don't think it's that hard, but it's like you have to find out what your young guys do when you put them into more prominent roles in the hierarchy of the team. Like my only goal would be like, okay, you got Brunson. He's not going to be the best player in a title team, but he can be the best player in a team that allows you to figure out how what these young guys can give you, right? He gives you a stable floor. He is
And
a
he gives you a primary shot creator without needing to dominate the ball, right? He can
yeah,
play on and off. That is a very useful thing that even when Randall was playing great, he didn't really give you, right? So
yeah, absolutely. So like to me, the goal of the entire team needs to be, and it needs to be built around this, is how do we structure this team so that every single night our RJ Barrett is a number one or two option. How do we structure this team so that every single night Obi Toppin is starting at power forward with these guys, and we see how to use him. We see what lineups and alignments can work. Like I think you have to get rid of Tibbs. I think you have to bring in a coach who is willing to adapt, willing to tinker, willing to try things, willing to be unconventional. Like Will Hardy. Forget Will Hardy, right? For a second, he's doing a great job in Utah, but like JB Bickerstaff is the one who was like, yeah, we're gonna try marketing at the three. And all of a sudden, marketing at the three, like, yes, obviously it helped that he played with Allen and Mobley. Okay, for sure. But like Allen at the three worked. It was a good lineup for them. It was a productive look. And instead of when he got traded to Utah, instead of being like, you know what, let's move him back to the four. That's his natural position. Will Hardy was like, yeah, you know what, let's just keep trying this thing at the three and see what happens. Been working really well for them, obviously. Uh, but like you have to be willing to try this stuff. And it's like Tibbs somehow accidentally played Obi, Randall, and Hartenstein together, right? But it's like, why not try stuff like that? And I what my point is like you want a coach who's willing to try that shit. And that would be my goal because you're not gonna get them like we've talked about RJ Barrett at the four, right? How many times have we seen RJ Barrett at the four? How many times have we seen RJ Barrett play with a four who genuinely spreads the floor? We haven't seen this stuff. How many times
I
have we
mean, does
seen
Obi? How often has he even played with Obi, who right now is playing the part of a floor spacer?
I if you give me 2 seconds, I can definitely find out for you.
One Mississippi, two Mississippi.
But it's like, yeah, I mean, we're not you need to find shit out about these guys, you know? Um, and really, like, I think you need a coach who's going to make these dudes work on and off ball on both ends of the floor, especially offensively. Like Utah is obviously they're doing great things, and the main thing I have though is like, how is this team that had underwent so much significant change they are running this free flowing movement based offense, no superstars. They're running this beautiful flowing offense without any superstars and with just one training camp. And you want me to believe that the Knicks are they've turned over every possible outcome with the current roster at their disposal? No, they haven't. I don't even think they've come close. Obi Top and RJ Barrett have apparently played 800 minutes together over the course of
3 seasons.
two plus seasons now. They are a plus 1.28 in those 800 minutes.
And
I don't
this year
know.
they've played 79 minutes and they're plus 2.37, including a pretty bonkers 120.1 offensive rating. It's not like the defensive rating is much better with RJ on and Obi off. It's actually a little bit worse, but there's probably some 3-point luck that's affecting that from opposing teams. But yeah, that's the one floor space, the reliable floor space that the Knicks have at the 4, and we've only played him 79 minutes with RJ.
Yeah, and RJ and Julius, they played 4,379 minutes together over the last 3 seasons.
So 5 times as many as he's played with.
5 times. They have a minus 0.76 net rating. If I take out the 2020-21 season, which would be that's Julius's All NBA season, which I think at this point I don't think it's unfair to remove that from the sample because it's such an outlier for his career. If you remove that, it's 2,170 minutes, minus 3.93 net rating for the Julius and RJ duo. Look, there's reasons why that group hasn't worked. Some of it is related to the players and personnel you've attached them to, but it's still not working. And I don't think you can have that same complaint about Jalen Brunson that you had about previous ball handlers or lead guards or whatever you want to call them. I just think they're like, can a different coach come in and get these guys to just be a different team stylistically? I think so. And I think this team has more talent than people want. I think the way the talent is being presented to us influences and affects how it's viewed, how it's valued, what the perceived upside of various pieces and players are. And I would like to see the information presented differently. And that would be my goal for the next couple of years, at least through the end of this year and next year. I would want to genuinely try to see at least what we have with these guys.
What does that identity look like? What's your hypothesis on the best identity for this next?
I mean, I think they got to play fast. That's for sure. They got to be able to push the tempo. I think it's a team that.
Do you think that could sacrifice defense, or?
I mean, can the defense get worse?
But they have, yeah, that's true.
I mean, the defense has been pretty bad.
There are a couple of people I've seen say that the Knicks playing faster has led to some of the defensive issues, but I don't.
Well, they are because you're playing slow guys. You're playing lineups that are slow, that can't they suck at getting back in transition. I would love to see the on-off numbers for transition points conceded. I would love to see it with Randall on versus Randall off because he's probably the biggest fucking culprit on the team. Not that RJ's been great either. RJ's got to pick it up too. We talked about that extensively.
Hartenstein at least tries, but he's not very fast. So that's
right. Yeah, that gets exacerbated when you get Julius not busting to get back, and RJ's in his own head. And yeah, I mean, like there's a lot of stuff going on, but like it's just I think this is a team that has to play fast. I think this is a team that doesn't. It has to be a team that affects the game defensively in multiple ways. You're not good enough. You don't have the personnel to just be true to one base scheme and execute that, and that's all you got to do. And I think actually it's a disservice to the players you have at your disposals, particularly the young players who, to my eye anyway, look like they can do different things on defense that don't need to just play drop. They can switch. I think you can trap. I think you can blitz. I think you can do a lot of variety of things defensively. And actually, I would suggest that if you do those type of things defensively, you'd probably get a lot more out of Obi too on that end. Not that he's going to be a great defender, but I think he's got more tools on that end than we have leaned into at all or tried to use at all. And I think this is a team that probably isn't a high volume 3-point shooting team, but that is okay if you have a little bit more diversity of shot creation and shot type in the starting lineup, which I don't think you have between Brunson, RJ, and Randall. That's pretty clunky. They get in each other's way. I think they all want to live in the same areas. You can get away with that with 2 guys. I don't like it with 3. I think Randall needs to go. I think he he is a major. I think he is the biggest obstacle in terms of evolution of the team. Thibs is his own thing, obviously, and I'd like to see him moved on from him too. But yeah, I mean, look, we're not going to get these things. I'm kind of resigned to that. Hopefully that that day comes where Thibs gets canned and the front office gives Johnny Bryant the keys, and at least we can see for the rest of the season. I mean, if there's an immediate goal, that would be it. I would like if you're gonna fire Thibs, I would like to see Johnny Bryant get 45, 50, 60 games or whatever.
Do you
So
think Bryant would be palpably different though? We
I
don't know
think
what
so.
he'd look like he has coached under Tibbs the last couple of years, right? So,
I would think they'll be palpably different. I would be surprised if they weren't.
so is he kind of like? I did watch this movie this weekend. Is he like Nick Crozier to Tibbs as Al Pacino, and RJ as Willie Beeman or something like that? I mean, obviously, Randall as fucking Julian fits 100% extremely well, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, no. Julius is Willie Beeman calling the plays in the huddle. He's like this and this play. He's like that and that play. I got a better play.
Oh, what do you know? You're an offensive coordinator. Shut your mouth.
Crozier. People, if anybody has no idea what we're referencing, go watch Any Given Sunday sometime.
The movie
Yeah, I
where
mean,
LL Cool J actually punched Jamie Foxx in the face.
yes,
Funny story there too. But
true
go ahead.
story. But yeah, it's just like I think Johnny Bryant. He coached in Utah. He was a finalist for that Utah job this year. Like this is not a guy who just we're gassing up as a candidate just because he's sitting on the Knicks bench. This is a guy who has seriously garnered interest when job openings have come up. And
But do you think philosophically he'd be much different from?
I think so. I would be surprised. Utah was a totally different offense from what the hell we've been doing in New York. Even if the shot distribution looks the same, they did not achieve the shot distribution in the same ways. Obviously, they had different personnel, but that speaks to it. So, like, I don't know. And here's the thing. Maybe I'm totally wrong. Figuring out, like, from the outside looking in, especially, like, it's almost impossible to know who is and isn't will be a good head coach for us, right? As people that are not in the league, like it's almost impossible to know that until a guy starts coaching, like head coaching. He's never had the opportunity, so that's why I think it's important to give him a legitimate opportunity. Because hey, you know what? Maybe he comes in 60 games and he sucks. He's terrible. Maybe, and now and you can go out and do a real head coaching search this offseason or whatever.
What's
Or
Mike
maybe he
Mueller up
comes,
to?
yeah, right. Or maybe he comes in and he's really good and he's connecting with your young guys and he's using players in different ways and he's trying things and it's 41 or 41, but you're doing it in a way that feels like you're learning a lot more about the team and these young guys' value is going up, et cetera, et cetera.
I
Like,
mean, that's how we found Woodson, right?
right. Yeah.
That's
Like,
exactly what happened when the
like
team was
that's,
not playing for D'Antoni, and yeah.
I mean, that's how the Knicks or that's how the Cavs found Ty Lue. Like, they literally were like, they fired David Blatt in the middle of the season. They hired Ty Lue, and all of a sudden, Ty Lue's like, he's probably one of the best coaches in the NBA. Like it's you don't know until you give it a shot, and it's like the thing that I think this is probably the best place to wrap it up too is like the thing that I just keep coming back to is what are you losing? Like this is not some like 47-year-old coach who's just having a down season or something after like initially showing a lot of promise. Thibs is 64. This is what he is as a coach. He's not going to change. He's not going to adapt significantly. He's not going to all of a sudden, start doing, different things defensively. This is what he thinks is the best way to play basketball because he is determined as such. This is who he is. So what the front office needs to ask themselves is this what we believe is the best path to competing and building a contender in the NBA in 2022? And if their answer is yes, that would be crazy and it would be very concerning. But like, I mean, that's the question: is this really what you think is the best way to deploy this roster, to use this roster, to maximize this roster? And is the downside of making a change so significant that you can't risk it? I don't see what the downside is. Thibs is never coaching in the NBA at the as a head coach. Never. He's never getting a head coaching job again in the NBA. He is not. It's not like you're potentially punting away a championship season. This roster was never built for that this year. So what ultimately are you risking? I don't think there's much downside here. I would make that move today. I would have made it yesterday. I would have made it last year. But they got to make it soon. Otherwise, it is clean house time, I think.
Yeah, and the downside of not promoting Johnny Bryant, I mean, you get a free look at, to your point, a guy who has been in a lot of coaching searches, right? He's been named. The Knicks were actually fortunate that Utah didn't select him, right? But there's going to be more openings probably at some point. Or you could see, and who knows? We don't know if Johnny Bryant would be open to this. I think he's been an NBA lifer, but there's if a premium college job opens up, you have these risks, right? We lost Kenny Payne, we lost Mike Woodson to those jobs, right? So even NBA lifers, like if they don't feel like they're going to get a shot here, they might go. So your risk is you get a free look at a coach who's considered up and coming, and if you end up losing him and he goes somewhere else and he does really well, you now risk that just for, to your point, not a whole lot of upside with Tibbs. I mean, the upside might be like if for everyone who's saying, you know, if you like Tibbs, this isn't a championship level roster, it's not Tibbs' fault. Okay, so is the idea that if we got a championship level roster, if we had made the trade for Donovan Mitchell, or instead of so this is one argument, right? They made the trade for Donovan Mitchell. Let's say that they just draft at 13, and find another way to get Brunson. Maybe they get Duran or something. Um, is the argument that if you had a championship level roster, Tibbs would be the best coach for it? I don't necessarily think that's true. Is the argument then? I've seen this from other people that the front office needs to be held accountable um, for not being patient, for draft and develop thing. Even in Dan Favali's article, he mentioned that. I know Macri has been saying that for a while. But is Tibbs the best coach for that? Is that your argument that if you like build a patient thing, Tibbs is going to be the best coach to develop those guys? Is that what you're saying? Because I can tell you one guy who wouldn't be a huge fan of that, and his name's Tom Thibodeau. Isn't that what we've been hearing for so many years? That he wants to win now. He wanted to trade the young players
Yeah,
from the
it's
start.
always anytime he makes an asinine lineup decision, it's okay because he just wants to win. He's not trying to tank. Like I always love
Okay, but
that.
then
Yeah.
you can't also from the other side of your mouth then say that the Knicks need to be patient, and the Knicks' problem is that they're not willing to just do a 3 to 5 year rebuild. The guy you've been defending has made it adamantly clear he doesn't want to do that, and I wonder how much of a difficult position that does put the front offices. That does not let them off the hook, but maybe they have had to try to. They know deep down that you need to develop young players and you need to keep drafting and building up assets, but you also have to placate this coach. Um, and but I don't really get, as much as I'm with you that the front office is not doing a good job of maximizing these young players. I don't really think hear a coherent argument from even some of the smarter people who criticize the front office. Um,
But look,
if you're pissed they didn't trade
let's
for Donovan Mitchell, that's fine. Or if you're pissed that they didn't, they haven't drafted enough players, or fine. But pick one side, right? And you can't we can't be, neither of those, besides maybe the first one, excuses Tibbs or is like a very ringing endorsement for Tibbs. And for what it's worth, I don't think that front office's problem is that they haven't been patient enough, or at least to the extent that this team isn't great. I don't think it's because they haven't been patient enough.
Yeah, I mean, I think fundamentally this is the reality for the front office. You told us at the end of last season, oh, we love our young guys. We're trying to build, draft, and develop. Blah blah blah. This is the future of the team. This is the base that we're building from. We love them so much. Blah blah blah. Okay, great. Okay, this offseason, why didn't you trade for Donovan Mitchell? Obviously, the price was too exorbitant, or at least you determined that it was too exorbitant.
The
I'm
price is
assuming
wrong, bitch.
yes, but I'm assuming that part of the reason you felt the price was exorbitant is that you internally value these young players, and you think that they have the potential to be really solid NBA players, be it rotation
Sorry.
guys or starters.
But wouldn't you say also part of it was at least the fact that they would have lost flexibility for anyone would say a kind of a middle of the road team? That
Yeah,
might not be the most ringing
no,
endorsement.
that's probably that might be the most, that might have been the biggest factor. But I'm assuming that part of it was also like, no, we actually like these young guys as pieces and we value them more so than Utah's valuing them. So we can't make this trade because of that. Um, okay, I'm fine with that. Once you do that, okay, once you effectively say, hey, we're not going to go on to Mitchell. We are not going to give up our, the picks and the young guys. We're not going to give up all the shit, the majority of the shit that we've stockpiled because we don't think it's worth it. We don't like the cost benefit here. Once you do that, you've got one more decision to make. How do we how do we put the onus of this stuff on these young guys? Because now that's the reason you didn't make the trade, right? Oh, Grimes is untouchable. I mean, I think the Grimes untouchable thing has been reported stupidly. I don't think he was actually untouchable. It's more like we're not going to give up Grimes and RJ in a deal. The point being, though, is like if you're going to value these guys to the extent that you're valuing them, then you need to show it in more ways than words. You need to show it by having a coach or telling the coach, whatever it is, these guys got to play minutes. You got to experiment with them. You got to let them play together. You got to let them give up a 15-0 run and then put them back on the floor and see how they respond and not just immediately Julius. Like you can't just do that. You got to actually let them get their shit. You got to let them get their ass kicked a few times, see how they respond to it. And you've got to live with that. But like, if you're not willing to do that, if you're not open to doing that, if you're not committed to doing that, then you should have just traded for fucking Donovan Mitchell. Because what you're doing right now it's not going to help you get the next star in a way that would have been any different than what you would have had to offer to get Donovan Mitchell. And you're not going anywhere with the current roster. You're not you're not learning anything. You're not developing anything. You're not increasing the value of anything. You're just existing. You're just existing in the NBA. Like you need to do more than that. Um,
Yeah,
so
I mean, so I think we're clear that the biggest impediment to that is Tibbs, right? From a roster, like I think that a lot of the criticisms I've seen, the roster construction doesn't make sense. I don't necessarily think so. I think we've both talked about how it could make a lot of sense, depending on how you use, right? Some of the questions are, they need the patience to do a 3 to 5 year rebuild. The only move that speaks to me on the level of they're not doing that was really the Randall extension. I think Brunson is a young player you got at a good price point. I don't think that was a bad move. That was not a win now move. I don't think extending RJ is building on your youth movement, right? So what are the trades people are talking about? You traded out of the draft this year. They got 3 extra first round picks. Well, you're not going to use them. We'll see, right? The other one was, well, you also traded out last year, and that turned into Cam Reddish. Well, so is the argument that the Knicks are trying to win now or have been too impatient and not willing to rebuild because they passed on Herb Jones? Or and by the way, they traded that for another young player who is finally getting a shot and looks pretty good. I just think those criticisms are where I'm like,
Pelicans are 7-6, by the way. Just want to throw that out there. The championship caliber Pelicans.
yeah, they're getting the same amount of. They should be getting more. They should be getting more heat than the Knicks, but there's big market bias. So, but I think there is one. I think big. There's the front office is. It's not that they've constructed a poor roster. It's not that they constructed that they've been impatient or they've been too willing to sacrifice draft and develop. Yeah, draft. That's probably been the one thing that they've done well. It all comes down to bringing back a combination of Thibodeau, Randall, and Fournier, and to a lesser extent Rose. Either Thibodeau has to go, or those 3 players have to go. That is the only, but that's really the only thing I'd hold the front office massively accountable for. And in fairness, that's the elephant in the room. So you can say, beside that, how's the play, Mrs. Lincoln? Fine, but I just think that people, Rose and company, deserve criticism, but people need to be very clear about what they're offering. And I think you have been, but I think there's others who have been a little bit more vague, or the roster construction doesn't make sense, or the young guys. Because I think like people are like, well, why are you complaining about Tibbs all the time? A lot of Tibbs apologists say this. I think people don't realize how often they seem to be just shitting on our young players when you don't realize you're doing that,
No, they
right?
they know. They don't care. They don't think they're good. That's why you need to move on from Tibbs because Tibbs, he will never present the information in a different way. Like this is how he is. And that's not to say, like we've talked about this. I don't think he's a bad development coach, but at a
That's
certain
probably the
point,
best thing he's done for the
yeah,
Knicks, right?
yeah. But at a certain point, development goes beyond like oh, I work with them after practice, or we have an early practice for all the young guys. It has to be more than that. It has to also be like, okay, now in game situations, Randall's playing like shit tonight. He's not committed. Okay, I'm closing with Obi. Oh, uh, Quickly's has it going. Well, let's see what him and Brunson can do in a lot of minutes together. Like, you have to try shit, and you have to put these young guys in positions to fail sometimes, but also to potentially succeed and see what they can do and see if they can turn the tide in games and seasons, whatever. Like, like we already know there are known quantities in this team, and then the unknowns are all the young guys. We know the known quantities aren't leading us anywhere. So why don't you just fucking see what the young guys have and go with it? Because I promise you, they're better. They are better. Emmanuel Quickly, Obi Toppin, get rid of all the Evan minutes and distribute them however you want to all these young guys. I guarantee you the team is better.
And
I
there is a
guarantee
world
you the team is better.
there's a world in which Randall could still be better than Obi. It is not a world in which he is getting a guaranteed 32 minutes and gets to do what
It's
he's
also
doing.
not a world where he's playing exclusively at the four. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, but yeah. So scenario where he gets some minutes with Obi, or as the five. I don't necessarily trust the front court of Randall and Cam to rebound well at all. But you know what? You start playing Obi more minutes, maybe it lights a fire under Randall's ass. Um, we've seen it happen before, so why not, right? But it's definitely, yeah. Like to your point, yeah. Like that's the only reason that's the only way I can see at this point Randall being a more positive player than Obi.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. That is our pod for today. Hope everybody has a great week. Stacy, let the people know they can find you and plug anything that you'd like to plug.
You can find me at StacyPadden89 on Twitter. To plug, we'll probably have some preliminary draft content, given the depressing content in this episode. Maybe not, he shouldn't be a huge surprise, but we'll have some draft content coming out. Prez is doing a roundtable on some of the 2023 guys. Worth keeping an eye on. Both, maybe, I think everyone's heard about Wemby and Scoot, but even if the Knicks do end up in, kind of the no man's land region, this is a very deep draft with a ton of very long wings. A place they haven't really targeted, but look out for that coming up soon.
I will. I will look into it. I'm looking forward to it. I have nothing to plug personally, but I will plug all the wonderful work at the Strickland, who, even despite the Knicks being miserable, there's a lot of wonderful articles. Drew wrote a really good one about floater stuff last week that dropped on the site, and Jeff has a lot of good stuff on his game recaps that he does for the Strickland's Twitter account and everything. So definitely check all that out. And all right, that is our show for today. Hope everybody has a great week, and I will see you on Friday.